as with boxing, when it's at the elite stage, you can't play games.
without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you.
Crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds.
Floyd Mayweather is not holding back. He blasted Jake Paul for agreeing to a fight with Gervonta Tank Davis under a no-knockout rule. Floyd says Jake doesn't care about real boxing. He just wants to sell tickets and make it a show. According to Floyd, real boxing is about skill, pride, and competition, not staged rules that protect fighters. But the fight is still happening, and that's where the chaos begins.
But like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers.
Woven boxing analysts are laughing at this setup. Wade Plemons wrote on X, "We all knew it was an exhibition, but come on. Telling people it's just skill display without trying to win by punches. Not a good look, lol." Fans who wanted a real war feel cheated. And just when Jake and Tank were stealing the headlines, Floyd dropped his bombshell. A showdown with Mike Tyson. Classic Mayweather. He knows exactly how to steal the spotlight and remind the world boxing still revolves around him.
Now that there's so many celebrities and so many people that are known where you can get somebody and they can sell tickets to events, that's what kicked off the social media influence boxing that Jake Paul was birthed from. Now we're in a vacuum. And so there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and continuing to do that. In this particular video, though, I want to get into the mind of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and why Floyd Mayweather Jr. would do this. There is the money, but there's also the competitive nature of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and him not wanting to have other people think that they're a bigger star than he is. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has not been able to really launch his star outside of the sport of boxing, so he continues to do exhibitions. Now, what I think is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is announced it at this point in time with Mike Tyson in order to take advantage of the publicity heading into the Gervonta Davis, Jake Paul fight, which is, I do believe, set for November. So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be. And the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson.
But here's the real story, legacy. For Floyd, exhibitions don't matter. He's retired, undefeated, and rich. For Jake Paul, it's all about building a name and proving he belongs. But for Tank Davis, the stakes are huge. Every fight shapes his career. If he turns boxing into circus shows, does he risk losing respect from fans and purists? Short-term fame or long-term greatness, that's the choice.
Whether what is going to happen in that fight is basically the same thing as what's happening to Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, except for that is a live action fight. That is a real competitive fight, but the marketing of it is the same thing, and the fact that somebody is going to pay for it is more likely with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mike Tyson than it is with even Jake Paul and Gervonta. But I think that it really is an attempt to compete with Gervonta Davis by setting up a bigger fight than Gervonta Davis is having. And I'm going to tell you this something else too. I would not put it past these people.
Jake versus Tank could have been the fight of the year. But Floyd's Tyson announcement completely shifted the attention. Still, the fight itself is loaded with controversy. No knockouts, no official result, just an exhibition. Critics say this is closer to WWE than real boxing, pure entertainment, no real danger. But maybe that's why people are so curious.
Will face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition match. Quote, "You can't do a fight like that as a pro fight," Shipman said. It'll be an exhibition fight, end quote. Similarly to the concerning location move, he states that the main reason for this is the significant weight disparity between the two opponents. An exhibition is defined by Florida statutes as a boxing kickboxing, or mixed martial arts engagement in which persons participating show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win, using strikes, elbows, blah, blah, blah. So the key word here is, key phrase, show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you. These are setup fights. These are rigged fights. I know Jake Paul gets upset when people say he ain't a real fighter and all that stuff, but I think the Mike Tyson fight pretty much showed everybody that Mike was pulling back on his punches, and it just was weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Gervonta Tank Davis getting ready to sell his soul to go up in here and move around the ring with Jake Paul. I don't know what's gonna happen on this. I don't know, but regardless of the fact, the fight is gonna do well because it's gonna be on Netflix. So everybody got Netflix, so everybody's gonna watch the fight. So it's gonna be like a wrestling event, basically, a fake scripted fight.
Former champ Paulie Malignaggi ripped the fight apart. He says knockouts only matter when the opponent is legit. In his eyes, Jake is being handed fake credibility. Plus, the weight difference between Jake and Tank is massive. The Florida Commission even refused to sanction it as a pro fight. That's why it's only an exhibition. Paulie's verdict. Fun for casuals, a joke for real boxing fans.
Paulie, knockouts, dude. Knockouts. People like knockouts. They don't care if you're knocking out cab drivers. Look at Jake Paul's career.
You can manufacture that, though. You can manufacture that, though. You can manufacture knockouts.
You can't manufacture.
To a degree, you can. To a degree. I mean, Gervonta legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists, though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist,
champion.
If he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way we did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know, the way they did when Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Okay, say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No, because he fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at that time fought.
Teddy Ellis will 100% agree with this.
With the expense of Witherspoon.
That we're afraid of him.
With the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all, doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract issues with King at the time. Oh, except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out. You can't say like, oh, but if he would have fought that guy, I don't know. No, with Davis, there's guys right now that have been hanging around for years. Yo, dude, when are you going to fight them? The lightweight division was stacked with talent. Even at 130, it had a lot of talent when he was there. Didn't fight almost any of them. So it's not the same thing as the Tyson era. You want to say anything about Tyson era? Fine. It wasn't as high level or something. He still knocked out everyone. There was nobody there in that era that you can say Tyson didn't fight.
Didn't say it was related. It was the same as the Tyson era. Didn't say it at all. I was actually going to say the opposite when you talk about Trinidad. Trinidad is a bona fide superstar. And the way that he was, and like you said,
he stepped him up and he knocked out.
And he was a knockout punches. No, of course. So that's a different thing. So is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, you also have to compare it to your contemporaries. Nobody is selling, dude. Nobody is selling. No one sells tickets. No one has a following these days. There's very few fighters who actually sell tickets.
There's a push, bro. I was at
Canelo
Showtime.
Alvarez.
I was at Showtime.
Canelo
There's
Alvarez.
Bro, but champ, I don't want to keep cutting you off, but I got to because
they
here's the
all
thing.
Push.
There's a push for certain people. I remember being at Showtime and even watching on HBO on TV. They're mentioning Saul Alvarez, who I didn't even know his name was Canelo at the time, as a possible Mayweather opponent when they were talking about possible Mayweather opponents. I'm like, I knew who the rest of the guys on the list were. Who the hell is this guy? Who's Saul Alvarez? That he's going on, that you're putting him in a list with all these other guys that you were bona fide champions and high-level fighters.
Broadcaster Ada Ladipo added another warning. These guys are in their prime. Exhibitions are for legends past their peak, like Floyd versus Logan Paul. For Tank and Jake to waste their prime years on sideshows could hurt their legacies forever.
Whether you agree with it or not, Gervonta is considered the #1 lightweight in the world. And it's a division that includes Shakur Stevenson, a lot of young guns coming up. I'm not any more sure if it's going to include Keyshawn Davis, but it's a hot division. He's considered #1 in that division. Like, that's why I kind of find this a bit don't know. Like, there are challenges out there for Gervonta. There are big money fights out there for Gervonta. We want to see Gervonta in those fights. Again, I don't know how many fights people want to see AJ in, just to make the AJ Jake Paul comparison. One, as far as I'm concerned, that was Tyson Fury. I don't really have any interest in seeing an AJ in any other more fights. Whereas Gervonta Davis, I wanted and still do want to see him in so many more fights. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. These exhibition things are, like, really and truly, they should all be when your career's done. Like, when you think of Floyd versus Logan Paul, it's done, right? Floyd versus Conor. Did he have one more after? Was that it? I can't even remember. But it was right at the end. It was done right at the end, even if it wasn't, right at the end. These guys having these exhibition fights in between what is the peak of their career is kind of weird for me. Very, very weird. And then it isn't even comparable to Ngannou Fury, because at least these guys were the same size. Like, Jake Paul is a 215, 220 pound guy. I don't know what he walks around at. Gervonta fights at 135. I'm guessing he walks around about 155.
Make things spicier. Reports say Tank Davis canceled his rematch with Lamont Roach just to chase this fight. Roach would have been a real test, but Jake offered more money. That's the reality of modern boxing. Big paydays over legacy. Still, the clash is fascinating. Jake has the size and raw power, while Tank has world-class speed and skill. Can power crush technique? Or will elite skills shut down a bigger opponent?
So, breaking news. Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting either ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, is a lot more skilled. Jake has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
Heavyweight Eddie Chambers warned everyone not to underestimate Tank. He reminded fans size doesn't win fights, skill does. A smaller fighter with elite ability can still dominate a bigger one. And Davis is way ahead of Jake in pure boxing IQ.
That something like this can happen, but this is social media. This is what is created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy. Yeah, this is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from him. And it ain't going to be easy to hit him. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out.
And here's the truth. These fights are designed for business. Floyd wrote the playbook: build hype, mix stars from different backgrounds, and sell it big. Jake Paul mastered it too. Now Tank is stepping into the same lane. Love it or hate it, this fight has the one thing every promoter dreams of: attention. And attention means money. Lots of it. So, will this be remembered as a circus show or the most talked about fight of the year? One thing is certain, the world will be watching.
Aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground, I don't know what else, bite him, I don't know. But I mean, the skill level alone, now of course, there is a size difference, a height difference and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. It's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out but he's going to feel.
Are you surprised at the backlash that Tank is getting?
No, yeah.
Mhm.
What is going on with why they mad at the fighters for this?